Join ForumIAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 Shruti Sharma.
Hi, my name is Krishnan. Today I'll be doing the Hindi news analysis. These are the topics taken up for discussion today, and towards the end we'll see previous year questions. So the first question is about Rohini Commission. You might have all heard about it. So the Rohini Commission is Justice Rohini Commission is about subcategorization of OBCs. So why was it set up? Because the government thought certain communities among the OBCs were taking the largest share of the reservation pie. So the government wanted to know the data about it. So they set up the Justice Rohini Commission. So let us see what is happening there. So when was this constituted? It was constituted in October 2017, and they have submitted their report. So far they got 14 extensions in the last 6 years. Initially, the central government, the president, asked them to finish their work in 12 weeks, that is in 3 months, but it has taken 6 years. What does the commission examine? So the president had formed the commission, which was headed by the former Delhi High Court Chief Justice G. Rohini. It was set up in October 2017, and they were asked to examine the question of subcategorization of over 2,600 caste groups listed in the central OBC list. So they even had a member called Dr. J.K. Bajaj, who is from the Center for Policy Studies and they had representatives from Anthropological Survey of India, Office of the Registrar General of India, and the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. So the commission had people who are having expertise in this field. So in the notification, what was told? The commission was tasked with first examining how much of 27% reservation. So OBCs have reservation in jobs and education and other government. So how much of this 27% reservation for OBCs? So how much of it is going for dominant groups within OBCs? So the commission clearly says that a very few number of caste groups among the entire OBC groups were dominating reservation and other government benefits. So this people always knew. So even we say that for Dalit elites, right, AC elites, because even if there is a SC reservation, only few castes keep using it again and again. So the same thing is happening for OBCs also. So further, the commission went on to explore how to subcategorize the existing OBC groups in order to make sure that there is redistributed justice. So redistributive justice means everybody is having equal share in the reservation pie. So what was this will eventually lead to? They had to break up all OBC caste groups into further categories based on how dominant the communities have been in availing government benefits meant for OBCs. So subsequently, what did the commission do? They came out with a formula for breaking up caste groups. So they thought they'll come up with a formula. In that formula, what they'll do? This formula will make sure that the highest share of 27% reservation will go to groups that have not that have not been benefited out of this 27% reservation, and the least share of the reservation pie will go to caste groups that have so far dominated this sphere. So this is the most important thing. So in 27%, they are going to give most of the share to caste groups that have not availed it. So the commission's report has now been submitted to the president. But what we know so far is the government will not act on the recommendations without having detailed deliberations with all concerned stakeholders, because a lot of OBC groups are powerful, right, because they are numerically the majority group. So the government will have detailed deliberations with all stakeholders. And in addition to this, the commission was also asked to rationalize the central OBC list by suggesting corrections and replacement in spellings and all those things, which will result in minor changes to the entries. So why are the findings significant? So why is this significant? Because the commission is expected to throw up exact numbers on OBC communities that have availed benefits since 1992. So since 1992, OBCs are having reservation. So this will give you exact detail about the condition of OBCs. So this data set will for the first time show the changes if there are any socioeconomic status change of OBC communities, because it's been 30 years, right? So they'll see, so this commission's report will exactly show if there has been a change in socioeconomic status of OBCs. So this is very significant because now the clamor for caste census is growing louder among the opposition and several state governments. Even in BJP run states, there is a clamor for caste census. So next, what is the most important thing is granularity of the data. Granularity of the data means very small nuanced data. Granular means a granular of sand, that much small. So deep inside, like very minute details. So that is what granularity of the data means. So what will this granular data of the commission's report will do? It will, obviously it is going to have an effect on electoral mathematics of political parties, because what we have found is communities that are using the political reservation only are dominating reservation benefits also. So this is going to have electoral problems also. So this has invariably put the BJP in a tough spot, because they are not sure if they should go with the recommendations or they should just maintain status quo. So why did the report take so long? It was initially they were supposed to give their recommendations in 3 months, but it has taken 6 years. So why was it done? So you all know the government has been tight-lipped about its functioning. Initially 12 weeks to submit its report. But the government said the pandemic and all was there, so they were not able to do their work properly. But the government says, the commission told they were rationalizing the central OBC list. So they were telling this was a monumental task and it took a lot of time. So in the last 2 extensions that were given to the commission, what the members of the panel told, they told that their work had been finished and only annexures were being finalized, despite which the extensions were given. So, but what we know so far is salaries were given for the commission members, but there was no record of off-year expenditure incurred in the last 2 years. So this is not a very important detail. So the other details that we saw, so those are important things. So keep those things in mind. Now let us move on to the next topic. This topic is about clouded leopards. So 2 scientists from the Wildlife Institute of India have found that the clouded leopard in Western Assam's Manas National Park and Tiger Reserve. So what they are doing, they are playing a mysterious game of hide and seek in the tropical canopy forest. So why they are saying it's a mysterious game of hide and seek? Because they are not able to find these leopards. They're not able to find it very often. So the mainland clouded leopard is often linked to the Ice Age saber-tooth because it has the largest canines in proportions to its skull size among all cat species. So I guess you can see that in the picture also. Its canines are bigger than its skull size. So that is a very unique thing about clouded leopards. And what is more important is it also has rotating rear ankles. So what it helps it to do? It helps it to climb down head first from trees. So even though it's a big animal, because of rotating rear ankles, it will climb down head first. So that is quite fascinating, isn't it? So what did the scientists observe? They observed that the cat with cloud-like spots on its hide does not follow any specific pattern of operating in a certain space unlike other carnivores. So that why is it, we'll see. So they seem to go wherever they please without worrying about other predators, primarily because of their ability to climb trees. And see, basically, even if they are roaming anywhere, if some predator comes, they don't have any problem because they can immediately climb trees, or they can even hang upside down from large branches. So this is why they are going wherever they want. So what they are saying, the clouded leopards are basically the ninjas of the forest because they strike with agility and strength. But what is their problem? Obviously, habitat loss. So they are categorized into two species: the mainland clouded leopard. So where are they? They are from central Nepal to peninsular Malaysia. And so one is the mainland clouded leopard. So and the other is Sunda clouded leopard. So they are native to Borneo and Sumatra. So the mainland leopard is vulnerable on the IUCN red list, and it is considered at high risk of extinction due to deforestation and poaching. So that is always there. So despite all this, knowledge of the animal's ecology and population status remains limited. So what the scientists did, they investigated its population density, habitat utilization, spatial and temporal ecology in the 500 square kilometer Manas UNESCO World Heritage Site. So what they did, the scientists placed camera traps in 473 locations in an area covering 270 square kilometer. So and as usually, the clouded leopard lived up to its reputation of being elusive. So they could record the cat only 21 times in 17 locations despite a sampling effort of 11,388 trap nights between December 26 and 2019. So in spite of having 11,388 trap nights, they could spot the leopard only 21 times. But they have estimated the population density. It is around 1.73 individuals per 100 square kilometer. So the study was conducted between Dehradun-based Wildlife Institute and SERB in Delhi. So this Science and Engineering Research Board, SERB, this research study is going to be replaced by the Research Foundation, which was recommended by NEP. So just reminding you. So the availability of small prey species and primary forest influenced clouded leopard habitat. So this is why they are in those places. So through this we can conserve other important species such as hares, birds, porcupines and other primates. So the smallest of the big cats, the arboreal clouded leopard's long tail helps it to balance on trees and jump 4 to 6 meters from one tree to another. So the clouded leopard thrives in a forested habitat, but there's a decline of forest. So this has led to a decline in its count. So all this is a generic thing, we all know it. Now let us see about Manas National Park. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's a Project Tiger Reserve, Elephant Reserve, Biosphere Reserve. It is located in the Himalayan foothills in Assam, and it's contiguous with the Royal Manas National Park in Bhutan. So this point is very important, keep in mind. So the name of the park originated from the Manas River. So what is the park known for? It is known for Assam roofed turtle, spearhead, golden lakur and pygmy hog. So the pygmy hog is very famous. It is also known for its population of wild water buffalo. So Manas River flows through the west of the park and it is a major tributary of the Brahmaputra River. So this is a very good map. So you see Manas is here and part of it has borders with Bhutan, and it is inside Bhutan also. It is called Royal Manas inside Bhutan. So these are the other parks of Assam. Now let us move on to the next article. This article is about TB detection. So the director of Chennai-based National Institute for Research in Tuberculosis says most of the patients enrolling in trial, I'll tell you what the trial is, so had extensive disease affecting both their lungs. So what was the trial? So the trial was conducted to find the efficacy of the modified BPAL regimen. As you all know, what is a very common problem with respect to TB? That is, they are not tested on time and they'll develop severe disease. So this trial has also showed that this is only happening in India, that before people get diagnosed with TB, they are developing severe disease. So what is the BPAL regimen? It was developed by TB Alliance. And what is it? It is a 6-month all oral 3-drug regimen. So it is generally given for people with high drug resistant forms of TB. So in BPAL, what do you have? You will have beroquine, pretomanid and linezolid. So all three will be given together. So that is BPAL. So what is drug resistant TB? Drug resistant TB develops when the long, complex, decade-old TB drug regimen is improperly administered, or when people contract drug resistant TB from others, you will get drug resistant TB. So let us see some data with regard to TB. So according to World Health Organization Global TB Report 2022, over 40% of the 10.6 million people globally who developed TB in 2021 were not diagnosed. So 1 crore people had TB and close to 40 lakh of them were not diagnosed at all. So India, Indonesia, Philippines, they all have the same problem. Close to 60% drop in the number of people with TB being diagnosed. So as usual, the COVID-19 pandemic was the reason for the steep fall in the number of people diagnosed in 2020 and 21. But in India, with pandemic or without pandemic, the number of people who developed TB and the number of newly diagnosed cases each year has been huge. So in India, we can't blame it on COVID-19 pandemic. So according to the National TB Prevalence Survey, 64% Indians did not get tested for TB. So it varied 46% in case of Kerala and 88% in case of Haryana. So even when people finally get tested for TB, there's something called a sputum smear microscopy. So what this does is, this is not able to detect TB. So it has only about 50% sensitivity, and still they are using it for diagnosis for majority of the cases. So this is also leading to number of missed TB cases because this smear microscopy is not able to diagnose TB. And the smear microscopy, they have lower sensitivity, and it will not be able to diagnose people who have TB, not just TB, the TB which are rifampicin resistant. So the smear microscopy will not able to find it. But what has happened in 2014 itself, World Health Organization has said gene expert should be used rather than conventional microscopy. So they're telling you use gene expert for diagnostic tests in all adults. You don't use this microscope. Why they are telling this is because these molecular tests are not only more sensitive than smear microscopy, they'll also help you to tell if the TB that the patient has is rifampicin resistance or not. But India still has been relying on smear microscopy for initial diagnosis. Even in 2015, the Joint Monitoring Mission report had criticized the National TB program for relying on smear microscopy, and they had criticized them for slowly shifting to the new molecular test. So the rapid molecular diagnostic machine has been scaled up from 40 in 2014 to 5090 in 2022. So what are the other data we have? As per the National Strategic Plan for TB Elimination 2017 to 25 report, the number of presumptive TB patients to be offered sputum smear microscopy should have reduced from 9.1 million in 2015 to 5.1 million in 2022, while the number of molecular tests should have been increased from 40,000 to 13.4 million. But The share of so what they're telling, the share of smear microscopy should reduce and the molecular test should increase. But in reality, what has happened? The complete opposite has happened. So last year, 13.7 million tests were examined using smear microscopy and just 23% using the molecular test. So there's something called as the presumptive TB case examination rate. So this is a good indicator to find and detect TB cases. In 2022, the rate of presumptive TB per 1 lakh population was 1.28. Of this, 988.6 were examined using smear microscopy and just 292.7 were tested using molecular testing. Early diagnosis of all TB patients is further complicated by absence of symptoms such as cough. So, TB will not show you those symptoms. So, what they're telling, you include X-ray, chest X-ray, because if chest X-ray is not there, what they're telling, 43% of the TB cases in 2019 to 2021 would have been missed. So, in case of subclinical TB, patients may show no clinical symptoms, but still they might have infections. And according to Lancet, 50% of all the people with bacteriologically confirmed TB have no symptoms, and by the time the symptoms develop, they would have transmitted the disease already. So another medicinal paper says both subclinical and active TB cases may be infectious, and that infectiousness is likely to increase with more advanced disease, although the degree of correlation is uncertain. So this is what they say, but WHO says people who are infected with TB but who are not ill, they cannot transmit the bacteria. So this is what WHO says. So what is happening now? So there is emerging evidence that TB may not fall under a binary of latent infection and active disease. So instead they're telling TB is a spectrum of disease including asymptomatic and non-infectious and symptomatic and infectious. So it is between that. Because a study in China found that of 380 patients, 81 had active TB, whereas the balance 18% had subclinical TB cases. And what has happened in 2020, the RNTCP was renamed as National TB Elimination Program. Why was it done? To underscore India's goal to eliminate TB by 2025, which is 5 years ahead of the SDG goals. So what the author is telling, can India achieve this goal by only relying on smear microscopy? So the author is telling we should change to molecular testing. Then only we can do diagnosis. With diagnosis, we can treat. So we saw that India is doing BPAL regimen. So what is the significance of this BPAL? So firstly, BPAL will drastically cut short the treatment duration by half. So that you all know. And it will also reduce the amount of medicines that multi-drug resistant TB patient must take. So, and one more important thing, generally the treatment duration for TB is 18 to 24 months, but the BPAL will bring down treatment time to around 6 months. So what they are doing, the all oral drug regimen, which includes nearly 14 different anti-TB drugs for a patient to take every day. But so generally, right, all oral drug regimen, which will have 14 different anti-TB drugs. So the patient should take close to 14 pills every day. But what will BPAL do is just 3 tablets daily. So what is it doing? Shorter regimen, which is all oral, and it requires very lesser doses per day. So this makes it easier for the patient to adhere and cope and complete the treatment. So this is why BPAL is significant. Now let us move on to the next article. This article is about the Data Protection Bill of 2023. So what has been happening so far? So this the journey towards a data protection legislation started in 2017 because an expert committee was constituted by MeitY. And in 2021, Data Protection Bill was released and then it was withdrawn. And then on November 18, 2022, a draft on the Digital Personal Data Protection Bill was released for public consultation. The submissions were made, but the consultation process were not made public. And even an RTI application was made to release the submissions, but it was not given. So again, in 2023, the bill has been tabled in Parliament, and the minister has not clarified how and on what basis these changes were incorporated. So they got a lot of submissions, right? Have they made any changes or not? They have not given the reasons for those changes. So who does the bill protect? In first, the new bill introduces duties and penalties on a data principle. So clause 11 of the chapter 3 states that data principle has the right to request from the data fiduciary a summary of the personal data being processed, identities of all the data fiduciaries with whom its personal data has been shared, and so on. So in clause 12, what it is telling, the users can seek correction, completion, update, and erasure of their personal data. But what has happened? The provision which allowed a data fiduciary to reject this request has been removed. So this is good. So users have been given the right of grievance redressal, right to nominate another individual in case there is death. So what are they telling? The impetus for a data protection legislation must be to protect a DP's personal data from being unwittingly exploited. The bill appears to be designed in a manner that this protection is compromised. And interestingly, the bill further goes on to impose duties and penalties on DP itself. So to give an example, clause 15D of this chapter states that the data principle must ensure not to register a false complaint with not a data fiduciary or the data protection board, and if he does that, he'll have a penalty of 10,000 rupees. So what will obviously this do? People will not file complaints. They'll not raise grievance if you're going to fine them 10,000 rupees. Other exemptions, data breaches are becoming really common. You all know that because in June 2023, there was a privacy breach on CoWIN portal, and all the on the details of all the vaccinated users were leaked on Telegram. In July 2023, about 12,000 confidential records of SBI employees were leaked on Telegram. So in view of this, what great concern arises in the bill is that exemption under clause 17 to subclause A, which if notified is granted to the government, and its exemption is granted to government and its authorities. So the exemption is granted on 5 specified grounds, and eventually it exempts government authorities. So that is a major loophole. So personal data which is processed for research. So personal data which is processed for research, archiving, statistical purposes will also be exempted under clause 17, subclause 2, subclause B. While previous iteration of the bill also provided exemptions, this has now been broadened to state that data processing undertaken by the government on information provided to it by an exempted instrumentality will continue to remain exempted from the purview of this law. So what does the bill seek to amend? The changes that the bill seeks to implement by way of clause 44 are significant. So section 43 of the IT Act imposes an obligation on corporates to award damages to affected persons in case of negligent handling of their sensitive data. But what now happens is the bill aims to exclude the application of section 43A. So what will happen? Eventually, individuals will not get any relief even if there is a breach in their data. So, and what happens? Clause 44 subclause 3 seeks to amend the entire section 8IJ of the RTI, and it replaces it with information which relates to personal information has received heavy criticism from stakeholders. Previously, what happened? Qualifiers existed which narrow the information that could be withheld by public information officers. Now, the removal of has no relationship to any public activity or interest, or which could cause unwanted invasion of privacy of the individual, widens the scope of withholding the information. So I hope you are able to understand the difference. So using this, PIOs will not give information. So will it at least protect the users? But one thing has been a widely appreciated departure on the previous iteration is data fiduciary should notify the DP in case of personal data breach. So at least this is their new. So other obligations imposed on data fiduciary include notifying the DP about the purpose for which the data is processed and manner in which they make a complaint to the board, withdraw consent and seek grievance redressal. So all they have made good changes. However, there is a deviation from DPB 2021 because there is removal of provision for compensating a user affected by data breach. And further, clause 5, it outlines notice obligations on data fiduciary does not mandate them to inform data principals about data being shared with third parties during, they don't have to give them information about data being shared with third parties, duration of storage of data and transfer of data to other countries. So all these things, they don't have to do anything. And there is lack of obligation on the part of data fiduciary to notify DP at the offset makes data principals right to obtain information pertaining to their personal data perfunctory. So data principal is at a disadvantage because of this. So the assumed consent framework for DPB 2023 on the other hand remains unchanged. But what they are doing, in place of using the term deemed consent, which was present in the earlier version, now they have used certain legitimate uses, which outlines the various situations in which the personal data may be processed without obtaining the DP's informed consent. So the bill fails to differentiate between personal data and sensitive personal data. So that problem is also there. So it negates the elevated level of protection associated with the latter. And chapters 5 and 6 deal with DPB, which is the primary authority for ensuring the bill. So their independence has also been in question since the 2019 version, because all its members will be appointed by the union government. A favorable evolution is the clarification that salary allowances and other terms of services of board members cannot be varied to their disadvantage post-appointment. So this is the only good thing. But what has happened, only adjudicatory powers and not regulatory powers have been given to the data protection board. So this is still in the bill stage. So let us see what happens in the consequent stages. Now let us move on to the next topic. This topic is about Bharatnet. So what has happened? The Union Cabinet on Friday approved an outlay of 1.39 lakh crores for Bharatnet. So what will this project do? This will provide last mile connectivity across 6.4 lakh villages. So what are sources in the government telling? Already about 1.94 lakh villages have already been connected, and the rest are expected to be connected in the next 2.5 years. So the cabinet has approved 1.39 lakh crore fund for providing last mile optical fiber based connectivity. So this is the keyword, optical fiber based to homes in all the villages of the country. So the government has decided to scale it up in a significant way. So what is Bharatnet? It is one of India's biggest rural telecom projects in the world, which is implemented in a phased manner in 2.5 lakh gram panchayats in the country. And what it will do? It will give last mile broadband connectivity. So the project was first approved by the cabinet in October 2011, and it is being executed by Bharat Broadband Network Limited. So phase 2 was approved in 2017, and funding in both phases was around 42,000 crores. Now they are having tie-up with village level entrepreneurs. So what is BBNL? It is an arm of the state-run BSNL. So what they'll do, they will partner with village level entrepreneurs to provide the connectivity. So the model to take fiber to the home with the help of a local entrepreneur was finalized after successful completion of the pilot project. So the government has already done a pilot project and it was very successful. So they are going to scale it. Now let us go on to previous year questions. The Nagara, Dravida and the Vesara, like these are all simple questions. These are the main styles of Indian temple architecture. The Congress ministry is resigned in 7 provinces in 1913 because the Congress could not form ministry in other 4 provinces. This is wrong. Emergence of a left wing in the Congress made the working of ministries impossible. This is also wrong. There were widespread communal disturbances in their provinces. This is also wrong. So none of the statements above is correct. This is the right answer. Mahatma Gandhi undertook fast and death in 1932 mainly because he was against the communal award which was given by the then British Prime Minister Ramsay MacDonald. What is the distinction between Bharatnatyam and Kuchipudi? Dances occasionally speaking dialogues is found in Kuchipudi dance but not in Bharatnatyam. No, in Bharatnatyam it is just the opposite. In Bharatnatyam no dialogues. In Kuchipudi there is dialogue. Oh, I'm sorry. Dances occasionally speaking dialogue is found in Kuchipudi. Yeah. In Kuchipudi it is allowed, but in Bharatnatyam dialogues are not allowed. Dancing on brass plate by keeping the feet on its edges is a feature of Bharatnatyam, but Kuchipudi dance does not have such a form of movements. Here it is opposite. So dancing on brass plate is done in Kuchipudi, and in Bharatnatyam you don't dance on brass plate. So that is the difference. So Kuchipudi is from Tamil Nadu, and I'm really sorry. Bharatnatyam is from Tamil Nadu and Kuchipudi is from Andhra Pradesh. Bharatnatyam is a very famous classical dance form, but Kuchipudi, in spite of being very versatile, graceful and all those things, it is not very famous. So the Andhra Pradesh government has been taking a lot of efforts. Let's see. So the answer is A only. So that's all for today. If you like this content, you can share it among your friends, subscribe, and you can even comment below. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Telegram, and Facebook. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you again tomorrow.